Hey everyone, Daniel here and welcome back to another video. I hope all of you are having an absolutely phenomenal day out there. As always, here today, I want to sit down and take you all through some of the most important catalysts to watch for Voyager Digital over the coming months, throughout the remainder of the year and beyond. These are all very, very important whether you're exposed to Voyager in any way, if you're a user, a stockholder, or a token holder. These are all very, very important, and I do recommend that you do write these down, as they will have a fundamental impact on the company and a fundamental impact on your holdings, whether you're a token holder, a stockholder, or even just a user of the platform. So if you end up enjoying this video whatsoever, please consider subscribing, and let's get into it. So first and foremost, currently we're in the month of June and we're about halfway through, and looking over through the next 2 weeks here, there's one main catalyst that will have a pretty big impact on specifically the VGX token, but generally speaking the platform as a whole, as Voyager will be initiating their Voyager token swap. Now this is, picture it like a token merger with the LGO token and the VGX token, and once this is complete, it will essentially enable Voyager to release the Voyager loyalty program, which, as we know, is the backbone of VGX. The Voyager loyalty program will allow users of the platform to gain access to different rewards and, through a tiered system based entirely off of VGX ownership. And this token swap, which hopefully will commence in late June, will really, once completed, create that use case and create that utility case for the VGX token, which is a major catalyst to watch for that. Obviously, we do know that this token swap will take around 30 to 45 days to commence. So, we'll go through the potential catalyst of the Voyager loyalty program in a moment here. But the initiation of this token swap will be big news for any VGX token holders out there, and for any Voyager stockholders as well. As once this token swap goes through, it's the first step in the launch of the Voyager loyalty program, which will have a big fundamental impact and big change on the Voyager platform as a whole. As Steve Ehrlich said, I had him on an interview here just a couple of days ago, and he said that everything Voyager is doing, they're also involving VGX within that, and they're really creating a community with this token. So, VGX is just as important to the success of the Voyager platform as a lot of these other catalysts out there. So this VGX token swap, that's big news, and we're expecting this in late June. Now, the next update that we have here, potentially in early July, is Voyager's end of their fiscal year. Obviously, we know that Voyager, they are a little bit different when it comes to how they report their fiscal year. In their calendar, it finishes at the end of June. That's their Q4. Q3 for them is January, February, and March. Picture it about half a year ahead of the normal fiscal year. Now, for Voyager in this case, they finish their fiscal year at the end of June. So in early July, there is a big possibility that we end up getting some sort of a business update and some sort of company data for the month of June, and potentially for the prior quarter. Now, looking at the past couple of months here, Voyager has said that they're going to stop doing monthly business updates, which they have been doing pretty regularly over the past year, roughly, right? They gave us monthly data pertaining to new funded accounts and revenues, principal value traded, etc. And that allowed us to make models for the company. But what Steve Ehrlich has said is that they're transitioning to more of a quarterly approach when it comes to releasing a lot of this data. Now, we don't know what a quarterly approach means. Does that mean they report the data potentially right after the quarter finishes, or do they report that data once they report their actual report? So in that case, it would be a little bit later, but there is a chance that we end up getting some data in early July. And if you are a Voyager stockholder, that's a catalyst to watch, as if they do end up releasing some data, that might have a big positive impact on the stock, especially after the numbers that we have run here on the channel. Voyager will be experiencing massive growth when it comes to revenues, total funded accounts, principal value traded, quarter over quarter for this, Q4 here. So that's a big date to watch. Early July, hopefully we'll go through when that report is released in a moment here. Now, in late July, Voyager is expected to uplist to the Toronto Stock Exchange. Now, this is a pretty big deal, as it's the first step in them potentially getting uplisted to the NASDAQ. The Toronto Stock Exchange is obviously kind of the top tiered stock exchange within Canada, and getting uplisted to that exchange will be the first step in allowing institutions to potentially gain ownership of Voyager shares, and will have a big fundamentally positive impact on Voyager Digital stock. So, late July, that's the timeline at this moment in time. hopefully it does end up going through right, during that time frame, and obviously that is a very big positive catalyst for the stock and any stockholders out there that uplisting to the Toronto Stock Exchange. Now, in mid-August, assuming that the Voyager token swap gets initiated at the end of June, which is what we expect right now, mid-August is when we can expect that to finish. Now, Steve Ehrlich, the CEO of Voyager, has said that once this token swap gets completed, we can expect the Voyager loyalty program to go out shortly after. And he said the timeline for the Voyager loyalty program is at the end of the summer, potentially September. So in my opinion, I think mid-August is very possible. This could be pushed potentially to early September at the latest, in my opinion. But keep in mind, as soon as the Voyager token swap ends up going through, in this case, potentially throughout sometime in August, we can expect the Voyager loyalty program to go live shortly after. And obviously, that's a big, big catalyst for any VGX token holders out there, as that is when the kind of the utility case for VGX gets unleashed. And that's when VGX can really reach its full potential, because right now, it's pretty much just a token listed on the Voyager app, making a bunch of promises. Once the Voyager loyalty program goes live, utility starts to take place, and people will start to buy VGX not only as a bet on Voyager Digital, but to actually take advantage of a lot of the rewards offered within the program. Now, in late September, this is when we can expect, at least at the latest, for Voyager to report their fiscal year 2021 report. We, just a moment ago, we talked about how, Voyager's fiscal year finishes at the end of June. Back in 2020, when they reported their fiscal 2020 report, they reported it at the end of September. Now, the very interesting thing about smaller companies like Voyager or other companies listed on the OTC exchange or the Canadian Securities Exchange is that they tend to, report their annual reports and quarterly reports much, much later compared to a lot of big cap companies out there like Square or Tesla or Amazon or Apple. When, a quarter finishes, let's say it's Q2 in this example, that's, April, May, and June, a lot of larger companies out there, you can expect them to report their numbers sometime in July, despite the deadline being a couple months out, potentially in August or in this case, late September. In Voyager's case, because they're a smaller company, and this is something that's actually pretty parallel with a lot of other smaller companies out there, they tend to report their earnings reports right before that deadline finishes. In the case of Voyager, back in 2020, the deadline for them to release their fiscal year 2021 report was September 30th. They ended up releasing their report on September 30th, so they're not hurrying to report their data, or at least that was the case back in September of 2020. Will that be translated this year? It very well could be, but we can expect their 2021 report to go live sometime potentially in the late summer, late September. That's at least my opinion, using historical data in this situation. If we end up getting a business update prior to that, that's up to debate, but late September, that's the latest date as to when we end up getting that fiscal year report. We'll see when it ends up going live. Now, in late November, we can expect Voyager to release their Q1 report. Now, obviously, they finished their fiscal year at the end of June, so this is July, August, and September. Now, again, using historical data, looking back at 2020 and when Voyager reported their earnings, back then, we can expect their Q1 report to go live sometime in late November. Again, this isn't confirmed. We'll see when they end up kind of releasing it. It all depends on how quickly they end up kind of putting this report together. As a lot of larger companies out there, they're able to have larger teams to take care of their stock compared to companies like Voyager, which, just a year ago, they were much, much smaller. But a lot of larger companies out there, they have larger budgets. They're able to spend more money on individuals to, write up these reports very quickly. And companies like Voyager and other small caps out there obviously have smaller teams, to take care of their stock, and that, maybe takes a little longer to write these reports out and whatnot, which may be why, it takes them a little bit longer to release these reports. But generally speaking, late November is when we can expect their Q1 report to go live. Again, July, August, and September data. That's a big catalyst for Voyager Digital stock, just as much as it is for their full year 2021 report. Now, early 2022, this is when we can expect some form of a NASDAQ uplisting to take place with Voyager Digital stock. Obviously, this is a very big catalyst for any stockholders out there, as it will allow larger institutions and larger investors to go out and buy Voyager shares, whether that be for their fund or for them, individually. Currently, there are a lot of restrictions put into place with OTC stocks or CSE stocks that don't allow larger investors or funds to invest in companies listed on a lot of these smaller exchanges because of inherent risk built with the fact that you're listed on potentially the over-the-counter exchange. Now, based off of what the CEO of Voyager, Steve Ehrlich, has said in the past, the Toronto Stock Exchange uplisting is the first step in allowing them to uplist to the NASDAQ. Obviously, again, a very big positive catalyst. He has quoted that kind of early 2022 is when we can expect this NASDAQ uplisting to go live. Again, we need to get this Toronto Stock Exchange uplisting first. That will unlock that path for Voyager to potentially get uplisted to the NASDAQ at some moment in time, obviously in the future. Now, all of the catalysts just mentioned had one thing in common, and that is the fact that they all had a time frame that's rather set in stone, whether that be within a couple of weeks, a couple of months, or a couple of quarters. Now, there are a lot more catalysts that may come to Voyager, or will most likely come to Voyager over the coming months, quarters, years, but don't really have a set in stone time frame. Now, that doesn't mean they won't have a positive impact on Voyager. In fact, a lot of these will have a big fundamental impact on the company, just that they don't really have a set in stone time frame. And I want to take you all through these catalysts that will most likely happen at some time in the foreseeable future. Now, first and foremost, this is more of a hope, but if Voyager can release some form of potentially a monthly business update, whether that be a certain figure with assets under management or new accounts, that would be absolutely phenomenal. And this is something that we may have to watch for. Now, the CEO of Voyager Digital, Steve Ehrlich, does go on a lot of interviews, whether that be onto CNBC or Fox Business or Bloomberg, and talks a lot about Voyager and sometimes drops very interesting gems, whether that be to new business updates with assets under management or new accounts or new coins, things along those lines. So, potentially watching those interviews, looking for those gems, a very big thing that will allow us to potentially gauge the growth happening at Voyager. Again, subscribe to the channel. I'll keep you guys updated on the growth and any news that comes to Voyager over the coming months and quarters. This is, again, more of a hope, but if we do end up getting any growth data, it will be very positive for Voyager stock, as it will allow us to get a bit of a sense as to the growth that the platform is experiencing. Now, on top of this, platform scaling and new infrastructure is something very important that we need to see. Obviously, Voyager, one of the priorities that they have kind of been focusing in on over the past couple of months is upgrading their systems to accommodate a lot more people and really reduce the wait times when it comes to new deposits and withdrawals and waitlist times. Now, when it comes to this platform scaling, they have scaled their platform a good amount and can currently handle in and around 6 to 7 million total verified users at one moment in time, which is around 3 to 4x their current levels. Now, when it comes to the future, Voyager has a plan to accommodate up to 10 million verified users on the platform by the end of this year. That will obviously be very big, and this platform scaling is the major kind of bottleneck that comes to potentially expansion into new products and services and international expansion, which is the next catalyst on the list. Obviously, international expansion and new product launches. Now, the CEO of Voyager Digital, Steve Ehrlich, has said this many times in the past, and that is that before Voyager expands into new countries or new continents, and before they expand their product offering, they need to be able to accommodate their current customer base on a high level and increase customer satisfaction alongside that. So before they expand into new countries and before they expand their product offering, they first need to scale their platform to a very high level, increase customer satisfaction, again, make the process for current customers very seamless, and thereafter expand into new countries and expand their product offering. So let's assume that Voyager does scale their systems potentially in the first half of the summer, maybe the back half of the summer, but let's assume that happens. Now, international expansion into Canada and Europe will be big catalyst for any Voyager token or stockholders out there, as it will allow for more people to download the app and trade cryptocurrencies, which, the more people that use the Voyager platform, the better it is for the VGX token and Voyager Digital stocks. Obviously, that's a very big catalyst. Again, the major bottleneck for that right now is expansion of their current platform and infrastructure. Once that happens, the international expansion will take place into Europe and Canada, again, potentially in the back back half of this year. A very exciting event. Now, new product launches, again, debit cards, new features of the platform, obviously potentially with stop losses, payment processing, crypto to stocks, retirement accounts, etc. That will all happen with time. But again, Voyager needs to upgrade their systems. Once that happens, these will roll out one by one. Now, from my understanding, the Voyager debit card will be the first product to go live once Voyager does end up upgrading their systems. I'm not going to go too in depth into the debit card in this video, but from what Steve has said, he has all the blueprints and drops done for the debit card, and that is what we can expect as kind of that first launch once they do end up upgrading those systems. So next here on the list, we have changes to the Voyager loyalty program and potential upgrades alongside that. Now, the CEO of Voyager, Steve Ehrlich, has said this in the past, and he said that everything they're doing at Voyager, they're trying to incorporate VGX into that. And moving forwards over the coming months and over the coming years, we can expect the Voyager loyalty program to evolve into something much bigger than it is here today. So as Voyager expands on these new product launches, we can expect Voyager to incorporate different aspects of the loyalty program and of the VGX token into these different products and services, which will obviously be very beneficial to VGX token holders out there and to the community of Voyager investors. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about here with you guys is the cryptocurrency market as a whole and whether or not we experience a bull market or potentially a bear market throughout the remainder of the year. Now, I've mentioned this many times in the past. Voyager doesn't need cryptocurrencies to be moving up in order for them to continue making money and growing their platform and user base, but there is no doubt in my mind that a bull market in cryptocurrencies is beneficial for Voyager. It attracts more eyes to the industry, there's a much more positive sentiment, and people are more incentivized to trade, deposit money, and sign up for accounts. Now, if we end up entering a period of a bear market, there is a chance that Voyager ends up experiencing a slowdown in growth of new funded accounts or potentially a decrease in revenue. So it's all about sentiment with cryptocurrencies and with Voyager. If cryptocurrency or the sentiment around cryptocurrencies increases in a massive way in the back half of 2021, we can expect Voyager as a stock and as a cryptocurrency to do very, very well. And again, although this isn't something that Voyager can control, a bull market within cryptocurrencies or a continued rise of cryptocurrencies would be very beneficial for Voyager Digital. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you found any value in it whatsoever, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Let me know in the comment section if you want to see more videos on Voyager or any other cryptocurrency or stock out there, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.